Hey guys, I'm Joy Cherick and welcome to my channel. Today I'm talking about how I plan my morning basket using AmblesidOnline and the Charlotte Mason method, but with multiple ages. So I currently have 4 students. So I have a 4th grader, a 3rd grader, a 1st grader, a kindergartner, and then a 4-year-old and a baby. If this video helps you out, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I post videos about nature study, Charlotte Mason homeschooling, and family life. So thanks for being here. So I'm very excited to share with you my plan and how I go through our morning time. So I actually print out my plans and I make them over the summer, more like in the spring for the following year or the next year. And they look like this. And don't worry, I will leave I'll leave a link so that you can download your own copy of this. And then I'm going to use some graphics to kind of help us along the way. So what I do is I actually start with kind of what I would consider is the most important part. So that is our Bible time. And I really want to cultivate a habit of prayer and confession with my children. So in our morning time binders, you can see we have all these little tabs over here. This is kind of our memory work and our liturgy that we go through. Each time we do morning time, we go through one of these 4 different confessions where we pray out loud together, or maybe I just read it. But I try to incorporate the people who can read so that they're not just, picking their fingernails or whatever. We start with our Bible reading. And I like to actually read this giant study Bible. The reason I read this giant study Bible is because it has notes. And oftentimes I do not know what is going on. We go to the study Bible, I read that a little bit, we narrate, we try to figure out what's happening. And that has been a really fun part of our morning time. And then we go through after we read and we do our prayer, then I have this little tab for the scripture that we're memorizing. I'm recording this in December, so you can see we're going through the Luke 2 passage. And then I have this fun section that you can see here. So I have 2 different skip counting lists on each page, and I go through all of them. I think I just go through 2 through 12 so that we're just always rotating through the math skip counting songs. And sometimes I've just looked them up on YouTube to figure out exactly what tune will work with the different math skip counting. So, and then we do our folk songs. Now I love, this one is Valderie, what is it called? The Happy Wanderer. Now I love the selections that Wendy Capehart puts together for AmblesidOnline, and I will link to that down below. That is kind of our memory work, Bible reading portion of our morning time. Now, what happens during that time is I'm asking the kids to participate. That means we're standing up or we're using our hands. Readers are reading. It can be chaotic, especially with the baby. But I do try to have the baby in the high chair eating a snack at that time. And then usually the toddler is either sitting on my lap or busy with some type of coloring book. And then once we're done with all of our memory work, we move into our reading time. And that's when I get out a snack. It's usually about 10 or 10:30 when we start morning time, and we've already had about 2 hours we've done our independent work. Some of the kids have done piano. We've definitely gone for a walk. And then we're just ready for some nourishment, and the kids need a little bit of a break. So that's when I pull out the snack, is when I start reading. So I'm going to go through exactly how I structure our reading for the whole week, and I'll explain to you kind of what that looks like day to day. once we're done with our memory work, then we move into the first part of our morning time, which I call the nursery rhyme loop. And that is specifically geared toward my first grader, my kindergartner, and my 4-year-old. And I have certain books that I really want to make sure that they get in. And then I want to be able to dismiss them to either play outside or go play in their room, or just, I don't want to worry about them not feeling like they've been ignored or just need something from me. I want, and plus guys, I love nursery rhymes and all of that. So I use the My Book House series. I actually go through the first 3 My Book House books perpetually, just on a loop. And I always keep those in the morning time loop because book 1 is all nursery rhymes. And then we're on book 2 right now. And it has a ton of, see that right now there's some poems and there's some really sweet short stories. And then there's a lot of like Aesop and traditional fairy tales retellings in here. It is such a great literature foundation. We'll also pull stuff from AmblesidOnline Year 1. And I just make sure that all of those Year 1 books somehow make its way into that loop, or the child is getting them on audio. I say all. No, we do just kind of forgive ourselves if each child doesn't get all the books. Next, I read our poetry selection that we're working through. And I actually just use my Kindle. It's a little beat up. So we have been reading through all of the AmblesidOnline poetry selection based on the year. So our family is in AmblesidOnline Year 4 poetry selections. And I'm just, like I said, I just downloaded it, bought it on Kindle, and that's been really helpful just to kind of know that we're going through as a family a progression of poets, and then I don't stress out that my first grader's not doing Robert Louis Stevenson. I mean, he kind of is because we're always reading those books and I select their memory work from there. But as a family, that makes my head explode. We're all on Year 4. Then I kind of move into our family work, and our younger students can be there for this, but I don't stress out if they are not able to pay attention. So once or twice a week, depending on if we have co-op or not, we do nature study together at the table. And that includes a reading. I love this Enid Blyton's Nature Lovers book. It has these beautiful stories about an uncle going for nature walks with his niece and nephew. So that's been really fun to read. And then we're doing mammals. So I enjoyed this childcraft book. Again, we're just kind of wanting an overview. These are just the books we're using now. Obviously, we have different books for different topics that we're studying. But that's probably just one day a week of family work that we're focusing on, either a reading and a journal entry or just a reading at home. Because again, we have co-op, and then that kind of satisfies another part of our requirement. I'm basically doing 2 readings each day, and we really just have 3 days a week, sometimes Friday, but I'm really just scheduling 3 days a week for our morning times right now because of co-op. So on Mondays, we usually do our history reading, and I'm actually rotating between reading through our island story and the American history stories, which is about the founding of our country. So I'm counting our island story as a world history, which some people say it's American history, but you know what I'm saying. So I want to just make sure that the kids, again, like we're looping through, going over the history of our own country. But I also want them to get that world history. And that leads me to Shakespeare. Okay. So Shakespeare is something I do with everybody on Wednesdays. And I do have this beautiful copy of Lamb's Shakespeare, and it's fine. It's good. It's not, lovely Victorian language. But I did find that this one was a little bit easier for us to make it through and understand what was happening. They put the list of characters, and that has been really fun for us, because then what I will do, I will draw the characters, and then my students, this was from Hamlet, then my students will color it in. So the first day that we do Shakespeare, we are just drawing the pictures of the different characters and trying to figure out how they're related to one another. So in my picture, I have, like a father and a daughter together, or a father, son. Okay, she's married, they're married. We're just trying to get the relationships figured out on paper. And then we open that up every time I read it, and the kids will point to, what's happening, or, oh, now this person's dead. So then they'll like X out their eyes or whatever. And that's been a really fun way to help Shakespeare come to life, because it was written to be a visual, like you're supposed to watch it. So that's why I really like this version. And that kind of leads me to what I do on Tuesdays. So because our week is a lot more tightly packed, I've had to designate certain days of the week for different things, because they do tend to be exactly like pretty similar for each week. So because we have co-op on Thursdays, on Tuesdays, my mom comes and picks up my 5-year-old and my 4-year-old, and she might start picking up the baby as well, to go for some enrichment time with grandma. But that leaves me time to do crazy stuff with my older students. So on Tuesdays, we do map work, which is where they're tracing different maps with markers, which again, I don't want the little ones around. And then we go through these different books. We're reading Bullfinch's Mythology together, and we have really, really enjoyed reading through these together. It even has come up, like when we watched Frozen 2, there was some different Greek mythology that came up in there. And my 6-year-old is even enjoying drawing his narrations from some of these stories. I have skipped some of them just because the content was a little too much, I felt like. But for the most part, we're just going through that. And these are AmblesidOnline Year 4 selections that I wanted to read aloud with my students. And so my younger students who aren't in Year 4 are just getting these a little bit ahead of schedule. Okay, and then we're reading together Abigail Adams right now. Again, another Year 4 selection. And on Tuesdays, we don't do nature study on Tuesdays. We do these 3 books. So we also do our Plutarch selection, and this is from Anne White's Plutarch guides that she has put together. They're available on Amazon, and they have been really, really helpful to make Plutarch a little bit more approachable for us. Now, I will say my 4th grader is probably even getting it a little bit better than me. And then my younger 2 are kind of getting lost in some of like what's happening. So, it is what it is. So that is how I plan our week for morning time. We really just do 2 readings from all of those selections a day. And of course, that kind of ebbs and flows with how our week ends up. I'd love to hear from you, and if you have any questions about what I'm doing, or if you have a system that really works for you in your morning time, I'd love to learn about that. And please let me know. Check out the download with my morning time checklist that I use right now. I'll leave that in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.